love doing research, and if I were given my druthers, I would probably do way too much, and I'd never actually get to writing. So, so some of the structures I put in place for myself is um, I use an outline to, kind of scaffold, build a scaffold for any of my books, and just to know where the story's going. Um, so when I'm doing an outline, if there are parts of the story where I need to do research, I just put a note in for myself, that, okay, I need to figure that part out and I will do that later before I draft. And then sometimes even while I'm doing that first draft, actually writing, there will be other research things that come up. Again, I'll just put a note in and I'll figure it out later. Sometimes with books like this, where amnesia was integral, I thought I better look that up first.
Mhm.
Partly because I did, it is a, it's often portrayed as a head injury. So it is related to things that happen to real people. So I wanted to be respectful. If any of you out there attending tonight, or you, Aisha, ever watch soap operas, you know that amnesia can be a popular plot device, and it can often be portrayed, I think, maybe a little irresponsibly, in that, a character gets bopped on the head, there's a head injury, and then they have amnesia, and then sometimes really awfully they get bopped on the head again and their memories come back. And I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to do that, and maybe diminish the real life experience, the people with head injuries who do suffer from amnesia, who do have to live with it. So I wanted to be respectful, and that did take some
Mm.
some research, as well as what would be some of the causes, real life causes, and plausible causes for amnesia. All of my stories start with characters, so I just really get into what could this character be like? Who is this person? This made up fictional person, but to me, they're a real person, all the characters are real people in my head. And so I just think about, who are they? What are they like? What's their background? What are the choices they've made um, to land them where they are now in the life of the story? And that's just what I did with this woman who wakes up with amnesia. Who is she? How could she possibly be there? So there's definitely the plot part, which is, coming up with hopefully an intriguing story and mystery. But then there's also the, what is it about this character's personality or character and background experiences, which would make them make the choices that I kind of need them to make in
Mhm.
the plot, in the story. In terms of like the craft of writing, you will definitely find a lot of contradictory advice.
Mhm.
Some people will say you need to write every single day, and other people will say, please don't do that. Uh, you know, and sometimes some of the advice, some of the like the kind of the age old advice that we still hear, some of that has been handed down by people who are in positions of privilege. So, for example, um, Stephen King has a very famous book called On Writing, which is part memoir, part craft writing guide, I guess. So he is definitely, many people adore his writing style and what he has to say in that book. And there's some really great things in On Writing as well. I totally agree. At the same time, he was able to write from a position of privilege. His wife raised their children. His wife took care of the domestic situation,
Mhm.
right, around him. So that's really privileged. Many writers now, they work full-time jobs, right, and they run households on top of that, or they have um, relatives, parents who need extra care. So there's so much going on. So my one thing is like, if you feel the urge to write, you are a writer, just find the time you need to write. Make sure you give yourself time to write, but how that looks doesn't have to look like anyone else's way to write. Um, so I hope if that's one thing someone takes away from my advice, which is like, find the way to write that works for you, whatever it looks like. Like, don't compare to other people, because other people's situation is not the same as yours. So feel free to experiment and find something that works for you, and then keep being flexible if you can.